Next on the programme tonight, the horrible, shocking, grotesque, vile story of a young Irish woman raped and murdered as she walked home from a night out with her friends the week before last. The 29-year-old was out for a night with friends just outside of Melbourne. She was literally a couple of minutes from her home. After spending the evening in a local bar, a friend offered to walk her home, but she insisted on going alone. Now, footage later released showed that she was walking along the road on her own at 1:40 a.m. when a man with a hoodie appeared to call her. What happened afterwards, we don't know, except that she's dead. And the horrible details of exactly what did happen to her, I've no doubt, will come out during the trial, probably not till next year. The question we're asking you is, why do so many... And this isn't about this lady at all. This is just a more general conversation. It's the fact of this lady's murder is what highlights it. Eugene sent me this email and he says, I don't want to scaremonger your listeners, especially the women, but it's only a matter of time before the same thing happens here that happened to that poor woman, Jill Marr. Every night in town, I see young women walking home alone, up dark streets, alone. Why do they put their lives in danger for the sake of saving a few quid on a taxi? Last night I was driving up the canal on Parnell Road and there was a woman probably around the same age as Jill walking up alone at about 2:15 a.m. I pulled over and asked why she was alone. My friends live on the other side of the city and I spent my taxi money on drink, she replied. I took her home for free and I told her what a thick she was for walking home alone. There is no excuse for it. Hopefully these girls will cop on after this story in Australia and stop taking the risk. I'd like to hear from you. 6797104 is our telephone number. Alan, you're on FM104. How are you, Alan?
How are you, Adrian?
Very good, Alan. Thank you. Your point on this is that women should be able to walk wherever they want.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the case of poor Lisa, she was like...
Jill is her name.
Sorry, Jill Marr. Sorry, Jill. She was 5 minutes away from her home, and she actually rang her husband, but he was asleep, so she couldn't get there. She had done it but this guy Baylor, who attacked her, Agent Baylor, he's a non-violent criminal, and he should have been tagged, and people like him have attacked women before. He has a history of violent crime, and the police in the area, I think, Adrian, the police are a bit remiss not to have spotted him. He was hanging around there. That's how they found him on CCTV. Guys, people like him, it's unbelievable that, a lovely girl. The reason I call her Lisa is a friend of mine who knew her. I know Drogheda very well. I didn't know Lisa, but
Jill,
sorry, but Lisa, my friend in Drogheda, knows her very well. Or he did know her. God bless her. I'm absolutely...
Okay, but the point is, doesn't this story sadly highlight the absolute madness of some women, of all women, walking home alone in the wee small hours of the morning?
No, not really. We can't have a society, any society, particularly in downtown Melbourne, in a thriving where women feel that they can't walk the streets. People like this guy Baylor. I mean, I wouldn't be to them hanging him as a deterrent to others. There's far too many of these criminals, getting out on the streets. And I mean, I know a violent instance of criminal I won't go into it, but a violent instance of a criminal just being released on parole who broke into a person's house yesterday and attacked them, So the thing is, society is far too soft, Adrian. We have got to put like they do.
Okay, but Alan, I agree with you on all of what you're saying. But my question tonight is, when you hear a story like that, and I can honestly tell you because I see it every weekend myself, it is so. If I were of a mind to want to do that to a woman, I can honestly tell you, Alan, you could drag a woman into your car, no problem at all. There are so many of them walking around, no problem at all.
Well, Well, I'm like yourself. I do a lot of business in the city at the weekend. I mean, certainly there are vulnerable women, but we shouldn't have a society that tolerates attacks on women. They should be like men. They should be free to walk the streets without fear of these gougers. And the police. It's up to the police, as I say, to put in, like in America, they put rings on them, or they monitor. They come, in other words, it flashes on the police car if there's a known criminal in the vicinity, and that's what should be going on everywhere, because people with a history of violence like this guy, Adrian Baylor, it's not the first woman he's attacked, and they should have, a tag. It's a tag they put on them. They should have been able to suss out that he was in the area. People like that have to be tagged, and they have to be prevented, because women, I have 3 daughters, and they're 30-somethings now, they're young ladies. And, if one of them was attacked, I tell you, I don't know what I'd do to them, Adrian. I really don't know.
Okay, Alan, if you have, I don't know if you've daughters or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, would you be happy about them walking home on their own at 2:15 in the morning?
I wouldn't recommend it, but I wouldn't recommend it because the situation has got so bad where they're at risk, and that is wrong. They're at risk.
Okay, they're at risk. Fine. Tracy, you're on FM104. How are you, Tracy?
Yeah, how are you?
Now, Tracy, you reckon that women who walk home on their own, and I want to hear from you if you're a woman who walks home on your own regularly at night time, you think there is no sense to this at all?
No, none at all. It's like anything else, Adrian, that they don't ever think it's going to happen to them.
No, and I'm sure, God love her, that poor woman didn't think it was going to happen to her either.
Yeah, but...
And she probably, and I've seen the neighbourhood, it looks like a nice neighbourhood, it looks like it's the sort of place that nothing would ever happen to you. But the point being that stuff like this can happen to you anywhere.
Yeah, it was like paedophiles. You don't think they're paedophiles until they actually do something.
Absolutely, yeah. So... would you ever walk home on your own?
Well, I did before, yeah, but it was just because I had no money for a cab.
And that's exactly what you heard the email from the taxi driver. He said that was your woman's reason as well. But that's just stupid, is it not? Make sure you have enough money.
Well, I tried.
Keep enough money.
I got to circumstances that I didn't have it left, and the amount of people that stopped me on the way home was unnatural. To
say, do you want a lift?
Yeah.
And most of them probably decent people. But I have to be honest with you, Tracy, if I not being a taxi driver, and I see this every weekend, every single weekend, but not in a million years would I ever stop and offer a girl a lift.
Yeah, they just take it the wrong way. Even if you're nice, they don't take it like that. They just...
No, but I just wouldn't. I just wouldn't give any girl a lift. Which obviously is my own fear. Obviously my biggest fear is somebody you don't know taking them into your car and God knows what's going to happen.
Even like a hitchhiker along the road, you wouldn't take them into your car either. Like, you don't know who they are, what they're going to do, nothing about them.
Laura, you're on FM104. How are you, Laura?
Hi.
Now, Laura, tell me what happened to you walking home one night.
2 years ago when I was 21, I was walking home and I decided not to get a taxi. That there was too much of a queue at the taxi rank. And I didn't want to, I just left my friend. So just as I got up to the top of the town, this guy just kind of lunged at me and groped me, and I kind of was shocked for a second, and I ran back to another shop and the tipper that was open, and I told him what happened, and the guards came, and then before that, I seen his friends came at me as well, and I didn't know what they were going to do, so that's why I ran away. And it turns out they were making him say sorry.
They were making him say sorry?
Yeah.
And would you ever take that risk again?
Not I hope, no way. It's a risk, I could have been, I don't know why, I was lucky in a way, that's all he did. Nothing happened, I wasn't raped or anything like that, I was just groped, but you don't take that risk ever.
So no matter what, if you knew you weren't going to have enough money for a taxi home, what would you do? Would you call somebody to pick you up? What would you do?
Yeah, call someone to pick you up.
Rather than walk home on your own?
Yeah, even go to a guard station, they'd be like, "Oh, I don't have a lift home. Will you give me a lift home?" I know, like, you know, they gave me a lift home, and they said that to me the last time. They gave me such a lecture about not walking home on my own, and like, you know, I don't even live that far away. Like, it happened in town, and it could have happened when I was closer, where there was no cars or anything like that.
And I'll be honest with you, Laura, I think men are mad to take that risk as well, but it's not, maybe I just don't see it as big of a risk, but I would hate my own young fella to walk home on his own, because I'd be afraid somebody would hop on him and just kick the shit out of him.
It's the same risk.
But it's a huge risk for women. It's a huge risk for women.
Oh, it is, and men as well.
All right, Derek, you're on FM104. How are you, Derek?
How are you, Adrian?
Derek, we've all been talking for the last week and a half about the tragic case of Jill Maher in Australia. You're saying that you prevented what could have been something very similar.
I picked a girl up on her own in O'Connell Street, and we were heading towards Drumcondra, and I was heading towards the Whitwood Road end, and I was on the far side of me, where the canal is. A young lad was trying to grab a girl down the side to get her down at the back of the bridge. Behind the bridge.
And you just happened to see it?
And I had the girl in the back. I had the radio up loud and on, but I just heard it scream. And it didn't sound like it was a fight. It sounded like a cry for help scream. And I looked across, and I just seen his hand around her neck and dragging her. And I done a U-turn. And when I got back, he ran off the other side of the road. And I was talking to her, and she said she was 6 months pregnant. And he had his hand down her bottoms and his arm around her neck, dragging her down to the canal, trying to rape her. And I brought her around to the police station then, and we made statements around there and everything. He put a bullet in out to try to catch the young fella. He ran across the side I came across. He ran across that side, and there was no way I could change him. So she wouldn't let go of my hand anyway. She put on nails through me skin and everything. She was 6 months pregnant, walking the streets on her own. And
he scarpered, did he?
He scarpered, looking around and see was like chasing him, because it was that close to him.
My God. And just to put this in context, this isn't a dark country lane. This isn't a secluded area of any sort. This is just off Whitwood Road.
Adrian, you know the red part of there?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Yeah, there was 4 blokes standing down the end of that road, 50 yards to 80 yards away. How they didn't hear that scream for help is beyond me. And when I got there, they were still standing there, never come up to me or nothing for help. And I just put out in the back of the taxi with the other girl, and we went around and made statements. We were there for an hour and a half at the police station. But I mean, them 4 blokes were down the other end. How they didn't hear that scream? I had the radio up and all, Adrian. And she was 6 months pregnant. I don't know what she was doing walking the streets on her own by the red parrot. And they were trying to, the bridge there where the canal is. If you were looking down, you'd see Crow Park. If you're trying to drag it at the back of that, you nearly had her down.
How long ago was this, Derek?
This is going back. I'd say this is going back about a year and a half ago.
About a year and a half ago, right?
I never heard about.
Okay, but the point being, Derek, that there is at least one fella walking around the streets of Dublin that's prepared to do that to a young one on her way home from a nightclub in Dublin one night.
Yeah, well, this is a young fella now. I didn't get a great look at him, but I knew with his face. Just a quick run when he ran across it. He's only a young fella down this. He's only around the 20 mark.
But the point being that for any time a woman takes that risk of walking home on her own, bear in mind that there is at least one guy, and there are obviously more, but there's at least one who's prepared to drag you into a laneway and try and rape you.
Yeah, there is.
6 months pregnant or not, he doesnn't give a damn.
He doesn't care. He didn't care that night. 6 months pregnant, unbelievable. What he was doing. He said he had his hand. She told me he had his hand down her tractive bottom while he was dragging her down the canals, just beyond the bridge there.
My God.
Unbelievable.
And I don't know if you ever got to ask her, did she get to say why she was walking home on her own?
No, because she was just screaming, and I was trying to calm her down. I kept saying to her, think of the baby, just calm down. I was trying to calm her down, and when I got her a bit calm, Adrian, she was shaking like a leaf, and I got her around to the police station. They took her away from me. But what they said to me, hang on, I was knocking at the door for us, you know, the latch. Hang on a minute. I said, I can't hang on. There's a girl at the nearly right here. And they took her away and they took her simple statements.
Well, that's if that doesn't highlight the dangers of, I know this story is from Australia. It's a long way away, but if that doesn't highlight the dangers of women walking home on their own, I don't know what will.
Oh, it was frightening. It was frightening. And the guy put hand me down. The guy.
Sorry, I'm losing you. I'm losing you, Derek. Are you there? I'll have to get back to you in a couple of minutes. Oh no, that wasn't it. I'll find it now in a second. Where are we going now? Susan, you're on FM104. How are you, Susan?
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Very well, thanks, Susan. Now, you have walked home or do walk home regularly on your own.
I would, yeah. Getting into a taxi would make me just as nervous as walking home on my own, and that's nothing to do with taxi drivers, but I have heard, you know, women having bad experiences, so I mean, it's one of those cases, like...
And how long would you walk, or how far would you walk home on your own?
It's not that far. When I get off the bus, it's about a 10-minute walk from my house. Now, I'd be terrified, and I've had guys approach me. I've had cars pull up, and then fellas try to talk to me. Now, I've been very lucky that nothing's ever happened. But, yeah, it's very scary. But at the same time, I wouldn't get into a taxi. I'd be very nervous getting into a taxi.
Sorry, you wouldn't get into a taxi?
Yeah, I'd be actually very nervous getting into a taxi unless I was actually going to a taxi rank. But as you know, you go out on a night out, there's, the taxi ranks are not controlled there. They pull up. You don't know who you're getting in with. I couldn't do it. And people.
So you think that you are safer walking home on your own than you are getting into a Dublin taxi?
No, I don't think I'm safer. I don't think I'm unsafer either. It's just a thing that I've had, and I've had friends who've had bad experience with taxi drivers, and I'm not tarring them all with the same brush. I've met some lovely taxi drivers, and they would, go out of their way to get you home. And fair play to that taxi man who brought that woman home for free. But if a taxi man was to come up to me and say, "Look, I'll bring you home for free," I'd run. That would scare me.
Now, I have to be honest with you, Susan. That's an awful reflection of our taxis in Dublin, because 95% of our taxi drivers are decent, law-abiding, hard-working people.
Definitely.
There's a couple of dodgy ones, all right, but the vast majority of them are... well, put it this way, I'd sooner take the risk of getting into a taxi, if you see it as a risk. I personally don't, rather than getting into or walking home on my own, even for 10 minutes.
I mean, I know a girl, I don't know her personally, but she got into a taxi, and it's scary as well, because, cars are central locking, and this is exactly what happened. She was in the car, and he locked her in, and he drove with her. And then another young girl, a friend of mine, his sister was attacked there a few weeks ago by a taxi driver. So, I mean, that just puts the fear of God into me. And I mean, like you said, 95% of the taxi drivers out there are lovely and hard-working. But I don't know, do I take the risk of the 5-10 minute walk, or do I get into a taxi with someone I don't know? Unless it's at an actual taxi rank or my local taxi
But
rank.
at least in a taxi, you have some comeback. I know an awful lot of women who, as soon as they get into a taxi, they open their mobile phone and they write down the plate number and they write down his name. Very easy to do. Takes 10 seconds. And save it into your phone. Job's done.
Yeah, but at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, it's just as easy for him to lock the car and then drive off. That's the scary thing.
Is it not more scary, that 10-minute walk on your own?
Yeah, it is. It's terrifying. And like I said, I've had guys approach me and stuff, and it's terrifying. And I've had arguments with my family saying, "Don't walk home, get a taxi." But it's just one of those things. I don't know. I have that fear of getting into a taxi.
Okay, stay there for 1 second. John, you're on FM104. How are you, John?
How you doing, Adrian?
This woman would sooner walk the 10-minute walk home rather than get into a taxi?
The most stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life, and that's being out straight with you. As an ex-taxi driver myself, as having a daughter myself, having sisters myself, I always encourage everybody that's girls that always group. When you are together, group in with a taxi, group out with a taxi. This girl is saying here that she'd never trust a taxi going home. Adrian, all she has to do, if she's leaving the club or a nightclub or a pub, anywhere she's coming from, all she has to do is call a taxi agent. Call a taxi. Call a decent number there. I'm not going to give anybody praise over here. I'm not going to read out any numbers over the phone. They can ring a decent taxi number over the phone, and they can get picked up. Now this girl, I think she's saying more than her prayers there, Adrian, that I'd rather walk home than get a taxi. I think, I don't believe her. I really don't, Adrian. That's been out straight with you. Some girls,
Susan, when you hear the story of Jill Marr, the saddest part of the story is that she was 350 metres from her house.
Yeah.
Now, you're saying you get the bus and then you've that 10-minute walk home. Yeah. And, I mean, when you hear that she was 350 metres from her own house.
I know, and it is. It's terrifying. Yeah, it is. But unless I actually have the number or I know the taxi man that I'm getting in with, I have that fear. I've heard too many stories.
Why not do what John is saying? Ring a company. Like, ring one of the reputable firms. Get the Halo app on your mobile phone. You've some comeback then.
I've been lucky that I've gotten to know taxi drivers and taxi women that I do have the number, and if they're around, they'd of course pick me up. But it's not always the case that you can get, someone that's reliable. And I just...
Yes, go on, John, yeah.
I just want to say something there as well. Reliable, she's given her all this, that, Listen, at the end of the day, I was always reliable. I used to actually drop my missus off, Adrian. I used to walk all the time. I'd drop her off and her friends, and I used to pick her and her friends up, and I'd drop her off back home, and I'd go back out to work. That's what I used to do. If not, I'd get my friends to do it. Now, this girl's saying that she doesn't know any reputable company there, or she doesn't know, what am I going to do? I have to walk on home, That's a load of...
But no, I assume you get the night link home, do you?
Yeah, I'd get the night link, but unfortunately, all my friends would live in town and stuff, so it's not like there's anybody that we can group together to get a taxi, because none of them would live out my direction at all.
Come here, I'll tell you something, love. Here, how much does it cost to get home?
€5-6 on the night link.
Will you give her up there? And how much does it take you on a taxi?
Well, the last time I did get a taxi, it cost me over 20 quid to get home.
And is it worth it?
Well, yeah, if you're getting home safe, that's fair enough.
Yeah. Well then, listen, cough her up there, pay the taxi man, and get home. Because like I said...
you don't know. It's fair enough for a man to say that. And like Adrian was saying, it is dangerous for men out there as well. But for a woman to get into a taxi...
Don't get me wrong. I used to have... like I said, I'm an ex-taxi driver. I used to have an awful lot of people in my taxi that used to... girls used to just fall asleep. They'd fall asleep.
Okay, but Susan, I want to just read a text that's just come in, and it says, I agree with that girl. You just don't know who you're getting in a car with, and walking is just as scary, so what do you do? Yeah. And what I would... the best suggestion that I can make to anybody who feels that way is you get on to a reputable firm, one of the ones that advertise regularly on the radio, and I'm sure you know them all, or you install the Halo app on your mobile phone. And I'm not deliberately giving them a plug, but I think it's a great service. I really do.
It's not just say that, Adrian, no.
Yeah, I mean, you get the driver's name, it'll tell you his plate number, everything else. It's a great service. Yeah, go on. That's only what? Well, it's only an iPhone app at the moment.
That's only a new service as well.
It is only new, yeah. It is. But I would highly recommend it. Sorry, go on, John, yeah.
I want to say something about taxi drivers in general, especially myself and a lot of taxi drivers out there. We all have daughters and we all have sisters, and we do the best service we can do. And, it never stopped us from doing the best service we were doing. But I can tell you this, Adrian, I'm sure the taxi driver has an awful lot of stories to tell you, as I do too. when we were taxi driving. Like, I've often had girls in the back of the car, whether it be the Playhouse nightclub down to a Swords nightclub. We'd be dropping girls home, and they'd be flat out in the back of the car. You wouldn't get a word out of them. And what you do is you take their mobile phone off them, or you ring their man, their dad. How are you? Who's that? Oh, Jesus. Oh, yeah, taxi driver here. I don't know where your daughter lives, but I'm stuck in the middle of Swords here. Or you'd end up in the guard station in Swords, and you'd say to the guard, look, I have a girl here in the back of the car there. Planked out.
Look, I've had women hopping into. I'm not a taxi driver, and I've had women opening the door of my car and jumping in saying, "Give us a lift," and I just say, "No, love, I'm sorry, get out of my car."
Adrian, hold on, Adrian. I'm not talking about giving lifts. I'm talking about boards being like they're so drunk that they're gone in the back of your car. I mean, they're lying down in the back.
And you end up having to go to the guards to get the guards to deal with it. 6797104 is our telephone number. Samantha, you're on FM104. How are you, Samantha?
Hi, Adrian. How are you?
I'm grand, thanks, Samantha. Now, you've heard Susan saying that she would sooner the 10-minute walk home from the bus rather than get a taxi. What do you think of that?
Madness. Absolutely madness. Because when you're out in the open, if somebody drives past you who may not necessarily have that intention to start with, but if they drive past you or there's a couple of lads in the car and they see a girl walking on their own, they may then think that you're an easy target. Whereas the chances are probably 99% to 1 that you're going to get into trouble with a taxi.
I agree. I think travelling in a taxi in Dublin is an extremely safe way to travel, and I say that even having heard some horror stories over the years, but bearing in mind how many taxis there are in Dublin, I believe it's as safe as getting into an airplane. Would you get into an airplane, Susan? Probably no problem.
Yeah, I would. But Adrian, can you understand my reluctance? You don't know who you're getting into a car with. Like,
sure, when you get onto an airplane, you don't know who you're getting into the airplane with.
Yeah, but you've got like 150 odd extra people in there, like.
No, but my point being that I genuinely believe that our taxi industry, it's as safe to get into a taxi as it is to fly in an airplane.
Yeah. Well, like I said, my friend's sister was attacked a few weeks ago in a taxi. You know, I've heard these stories before, and like I said, I've met lovely taxi men, and I don't think they're all the same. But you don't know who you're getting in the car with. You could be that unlucky one that gets in with some bastard.
Absolutely. But you could also be that unlucky one who's walking that 10 minutes walk home, who's 350 metres from her own home, and some nutter in a blue tracksuit comes and drags you off and kills you and rapes you.
Exactly. But that's you know, it's the same. It's the same thing. You have.
But you think the walk home is a lesser risk?
I don't know, because I've been having this argument with my family for the last few weeks. I don't know. I've always done it. I've always walked home, and I've always been afraid walking home. But it's the same.
Yes, go on, Samantha. Yeah.
Do you know what? I've got 2 daughters that are now in their 30s, and they used to phone me from wherever they were, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I used to go out in my pajamas, pick them up, and bring them home. And if that girl has a 10-minute walk from the bus stop, her mother or her father or her brother or her sister should be at the bus stop to meet her in a vehicle and take her home. I would never in a million years allow my daughters to walk home. And I work in a shop, and we used to close at 10 o'clock at night. And the young girl used to live on the south side. And she used to say to me, no, just drop me here and I'll walk. And I used to say to her, where do you live from here? And I just walk through the park. I said, are you smoking something? There is no way I'm going to let you walk through a dark park at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. Not a chance. And I used to take her home.
And Susan, I don't want you to tell me specifically where your walk is, but what sort of a walk is it? Is it through a park, or is it just...
No, there there is a park that is a much shorter cut to my house, but I wouldn't even walk through there during the day. Being honest with you, it's too dangerous. It's on a main street, but at 2-3 in the morning.
It's not a main street. There's nothing going on. And in fact, the place where Jill Maher was abducted in Melbourne, that was a main street as well.
Exactly.
So, nowhere is safe.
Well, that's it, exactly. There's, walking through town is, I wouldn't feel safe. And there's hundreds of people around there at that hour of the morning, you just don't feel safe.
And Susan, as I said to you, I do understand your concern about getting into a taxi. You don't know whose car you're getting into. But at least you have some comeback. You can get his plate number. You can get his name. You can get the reg number of the car. And maybe do that before you even get into the vehicle.
But Adrian...
Yes, go on, yeah.
If this girl... Okay, what she needs to do is she needs to put 1 or 2 taxi numbers in her phone and phone them and say, right, the bus is dropping me off at such and such a time. Can you have a driver there to take me home? Then she's not paying $20. She's only paying from the bus stop to her home. And it might only be €5 or €6. But it's safer than somebody jumping out of the park and molesting her.
Where am I going next? Tony, you're on FM104. How are you, Tony?
How are you, Adrian?
Good, Tony. You think that it is safe enough for women to walk home alone?
Well, it depends what area you're going through, but as a whole, yeah, it should be all right for women to be going home alone.
Oh, should be, but is it?
Yeah. I think so. It's just I wouldn't trust the taxi drivers more, that sort of way.
You see, I think that's an awful thing to say about taxi drivers. I really do. And I know taxi drivers give out, claiming that I give out about them, which I don't. But I think that's an awful thing to say about taxi drivers. I think the vast majority of them are perfectly trustworthy.
Yeah, the vast majority of them. The vast majority of the streets are all right as well. You have to realise that too. Certain areas you want to be avoiding, that sort of way.
So do you think somebody like Samantha is overreacting?
Well, where are you from, Samantha?
I'm from South Africa, but I've seen the increase in crime in the last 13 years since I've been here. The first year that I got here, the only crime that made headlines was the woman whose child was drowned in the Wicklow River, or whatever it was, on the beach. Since then, it's happening, so much more is happening. And unfortunately... If the punishment doesn't fit the crime, people are going to keep doing it.
Yeah, but what's been the crime though? That's the question. It can be dangerous, yeah, but there has been to the majority no problems, that sort of way.
Yes, no, I know, but I just don't think that a young girl walking, well, actually any woman, I don't care what age she is, walking in the middle of the night on her own is safe, because the situation is changing. The society is changing. And unfortunately, yes, it's not going to happen to everybody. And maybe there's 2,000 women walking the streets in any 1 month. But it's that one person, and nobody ever thinks it's going to be them.
And I'm sure, God love her, that lady Jill in Australia didn't think it was going to be her. She was nearly home, for God's sake. She thought it was safe enough. The walk that she had to do, she thought was safe enough that she was able to say to one of her friends, no, it's okay, I don't need you to walk me home, I'm grand. The point being that you're never safe. Do you know what I mean? Tony?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree, but also you have to realise that foreigners over in Australia, Irish women or whatever would be normally fine, because they'd be afraid that somebody might know them or somebody might hear them or something like that, especially in a place like Dublin or something like that.
All right, stay there for a second. Where am I going now? Brian, you're on FM104. How are you, Brian? Hello, Brian? No, Brian's not there. We didn't spot that. Okay. 6797104 is our telephone number. Can I ask you, Samantha, do you think that... I mean, I got an email, I got a text a couple of minutes ago. By the way, you can text us at any time. 53104 is our telephone number. I'm a female delivery driver in North Dublin, and I work on my own till 12 at night. You have me a nervous wreck, but I have no choice but to work like this, as I've a child to support on my own.
Okay, what is she delivering?
Female delivery. I assume she's delivering chips or pizzas or whatever.
You see, the thing is, you're driving around in a car, so you have your car for protection. You know where the order has come from. So it's not like we're talking about women walking the streets. We're talking about women taking shortcuts through either parks or down laneways or things like that, where they're putting themselves in danger to a degree. And any parent who allows their child to get off a bus or a train and walk 10 or 15 minutes to where they live, I blame the parents, because, boy, I would be in my car so quickly to go and pick up my kids. And I will do that with my grandchildren when they grow up.
Susan, is this making you reconsider walking home on your own?
It's like I said, Adrian, walking home is definitely scary as it is, but it's just as scary getting into a taxi. It's 50-50 because, as that fella was saying, the majority of places are safe. The majority of taxi drivers are safe. But you get that one taxi driver, or that one night you're walking home on your own, you just don't know. So
and I'll speak up for our taxi drivers. I think the risk of walking home on your own is greater than the risk of getting into a Dublin taxi. I really mean that. Even if it's a random taxi you pull in off the street, I think you're at greater risk walking on your own. I really do believe that.
I would definitely not get into a taxi that I just flagged on the street.
Well, then don't flag them on the street and ring a company.
Yeah, I'd have to go to a company. I couldn't. Girls that flag them on the street, and I see them all the time, I just couldn't do it.
But I still believe, even for the ones that you just flag on the street, I still think that there's 99.9% of them are decent blokes that aren't going to bring you to any harm whatsoever.
I completely agree, but that little percentage is always there that you just don't know who you're getting in the car with.
All right, now, as I said, there are many taxi firms that advertise. I'm not going to single them out. There are many taxi firms who advertise with this company, with this radio station, with other radio stations. You know them, you know their jingles. Just dial the number. Or if you've got a smartphone, get the Halo app. And if you haven't seen it yet, I've no problem giving it a plug for the likes of this, because you open it up, and I'm doing it right now as I'm talking to you, and it tells me from my location where I am now, I can have a taxi in 5 minutes. So I just press the button and order a taxi, and it'll be here in 5 minutes. It's a super service, it really is. It's very professional, it's very efficient, and you have some comeback. Carl, final call on this. How are you, Carl?
Hey, Adrian. I just wanted to talk to Samantha there. She's really kind of just pissed me off with the way she's going on. She's going on. Okay. She's going on like at the stage she is this perfect mother that can save her kids from anything. Like, it's a cruel fucking world. It's a cruel world we're living in these days, and it doesn't matter if you're in a taxi or walking around. You can't be fucking caught anywhere. Like, she's going on saying, well, this fucking delivery driver is safe because she's driving around her car. What's to say she knocks into some house where they're having a party, just a load of lads, she gets fucking dragged in?
Okay, I'm not saying that she isn't.
Like, honestly, everyone is able to get caught, no matter who, even if it's a fella. If a fella's going over to collect his sister from the bus stop, who's to say someone is going to stick a knife in his fucking back?
Yes, it's a chance that it's going to take. But if you're a parent, and I mean, I don't know how old you are, but if you're a parent and you have got children, you try and protect them to the best of your ability.
Obviously. My parents would do the same for me. They tried to protect me. But who's to say your mother isn't going to be walking across the road to collect her from a bus stop and she ends up getting fucking raped?
No,
or your father's going across to collect her from a bus stop and he gets dragged out of his fucking car.
No. But you've got,
things like this do happen.
I know they happen, but you
hold on.
Lock the car.
Lock the car. Would you ever give over? I live in Ballymun and I see stuff in Ballymun that a child shouldn't have seen. I see stuff all the bleeding time that happens in that place. I seen some fella get a smack of an axe and a chain for kicking a ball into someone's garden. It's a cruel fucking world.
No, it is. I don't even know where Ballymun is because I'm not from this country, so I don't quite know even where you're talking about. But what I'm saying is it can happen anywhere at any time.
Exactly.
So you try and make the best of the situation and you try and protect your kids as much as possible. And I wouldn't allow my children to walk home at 2 o'clock in the morning from the bus stop. That's all I was saying. That I would get into my car and drive to that bus stop and pick up my child and take them home. I'm not saying that I won't get attacked when I pull up into my driveway because that can happen. But
the bottom line is, Samantha, you think women are insane to be taking the risk of walking home alone?
I think in this day and age, Adrian, where crime is not punishable enough, then I think women are silly because I think that the punishment of things in this day and age don't fit the crime.
I saw an interview with a woman who was on the march yesterday in Melbourne where 30,000 people marched in support of the family of Jill Maher. Her mother was there. It was an amazing sight. You wouldn't see anything like that here in Dublin. You just wouldn't. It was an amazing... If a foreign national got murdered here in Ireland, you would not see 30,000 people walk the streets of Dublin to protest against it and to show solidarity with the family. And if that's not a lesson we can learn, I don't know what is. But anyway, the point I was about to make is I saw a woman being interviewed after taking part in the march, and she said she doesn't want her death to be in vain. And she wants people to take a lesson out of it. And the lesson that this woman who was being interviewed said that she wants people to take out of it is please be more aware of your safety. That's not a dig at her. That's just for other people. Please be more aware of your safety and stop taking those silly risks. A couple of your texts just before I wrap this up. Thank you for texting in. And you can text in right throughout the show, 53104. I think it's dangerous to walk, the same as taking a taxi, but I know that my friend's colleague's girlfriend got hurt by a taxi driver last week. I don't know much details, but I'm sure it's not always safer to take a taxi, says that person. Sorry, I have to say I disagree with you. As someone who's been attacked, Jill Maher's story is horrific and so preventable. Samantha on your phone is right. I'm only 19, but I plan to be at my child's beck and call when it comes to coming home at night. My brother's friend was assaulted at the recent gig in the Phoenix Park because he intervened when he saw a guy and a group of lads trying to drag some girl off. These lads then stabbed him because he intervened. I speak from experience when I say women are not safe even during the day. I was attacked a couple of years ago at the Smithfield Lewis Junction. It was about 3 p.m. and over 20 people were there waiting on the Lewis. Not one person tried to help me.